Flames roared louder than the silence. Deputy Logan Carter gripped the steering wheel tighter, his knuckles bone white as the crackle of radio chatter filled the cruiser. Smoke towered ahead, a thick black plume slicing the twilight like a blade. He slammed the brakes at the crest of Hillcrest Road. Fire engulfed the parked SUV below, flames licking the pine trees on either side. The air stank of burning rubber and something else. Something metallic and wrong. He was out of the car before it came to a full stop. "Dispatch, this is Carter. Vehicle fire, possible entrapment. I'm going in." The heat hit him like a wave. He covered his mouth with his sleeve, approaching low and fast. Glass exploded. From inside the SUV came a noise, ragged, high-pitched. Not human. A bark. Then another, frantic and pained. "Jesus!" Carter lunged toward the passenger side, shielding his face. Through the haze, a shape moved, black and tan fur, head low, body pinned between the back seat and a twisted metal crate. The dog was still alive. Barely. "Hang on, buddy." Using the butt of his flashlight, Carter shattered the remaining glass, reached inside, and grabbed the crate's handle. It was searing hot. The shepherd didn't growl or snap, just locked eyes with him, unwavering. Carter didn't see fear. He saw something else. Trust. He yanked hard. The crate gave way with a screech, and he dragged it out onto the gravel, flames dancing inches away from his boots. The shepherd staggered out, coughing, legs trembling. "Easy, boy. I got you. I got you." But something was wrong. The fur on the dog's front legs was soaked. Red. Carter blinked, instinctively checking himself. No wounds. It wasn't his blood. And the dog, he wasn't injured either. That blood wasn't his. Carter crouched down. "What the hell happened to you?" The shepherd didn't respond, but stared back at the SUV like someone, was missing. Then he turned and limped toward the woods. "Number Hay, come back." Carter hesitated for a beat, heart pounding, and followed. They didn't go far. 15 feet into the tree line, Carter stumbled onto a clearing, partially hidden by underbrush. There, in the mud, was a trail of blood leading to a discarded duffel bag. He opened it. No ID, just cash. Tens of thousands in bundled bills already wet with blood. And inside a side pouch. A badge. Melted around the edges but still legible. FBI. Carter stood still. The shepherd sat beside him. Tongue out, chest rising and falling rapidly. Eyes locked on the bag like he knew exactly what it meant. "This wasn't an accident," Carter muttered. "This was a hit." The dog whined low. Footsteps cracked behind him. Carter spun, hand on his holster. But it was only Mia Lang, racing down the trail, jacket half-zipped, a stethoscope swinging from her neck. "Logan," she called. "They said you found a dog. Where is—" Her voice died when she saw the shepherd and the blood. He explained in clipped words, pointing to the SUV, the crate, the badge. Mia's hand trembled as she scanned the dog with a pocket scanner. A beep. "Logan," she said slowly. "You need to see this." A number blinked on her screen. A chip. Registered. "His name's Rex. He belonged to Special Agent Jessica Blake. She went missing 2 weeks ago." Carter looked down at the shepherd. "You were with her, weren't you?" Rex didn't move. Then, almost like in slow motion, he turned his head toward the woods again. This time, his body tensed. Ears up, muscles ready. A sound echoed across the trees, a low thrum. Carter and Mia both heard it. Not the crackle of fire, an engine, getting closer, and Rex growled for the first time. Carter reached for his radio. "Dispatch, this is Deputy Carter. Send backup, now." But the static answered, dead. He looked at Mia. "Get to the truck. Take Rex. Go. What about you?" "I'll stall them." He didn't know who them was yet. But Rex did. And that was enough. The diner was nearly empty, save for a trucker nursing cold coffee in the back and an elderly couple whispering over pancakes. Carter sat in the corner booth, Rex lying under the table at his feet, his eyes constantly scanning. The German shepherd hadn't relaxed since they'd made it out of the woods, and neither had Carter. Mia sat across from him, visibly shaken, laptop open beside her untouched plate of fries. "You realize," she said quietly, "this isn't just a K-9 rescue. That dog just survived a targeted hit on a federal agent." Carter glanced around before answering. "I know, but I can't bring this to the sheriff. Not yet. Because someone on the inside could be dirty." "Exactly." Rex's ears perked at the door just before it opened. A man in a grey hoodie stepped in, ordered nothing, and took a seat at the bar. He didn't look at anyone, but Carter clocked the bulge under his jacket immediately. Glock. Concealed, but not well. Rex growled low. "Don't do that." Carter muttered under his breath, giving Rex a subtle pat. "Let me guess," Mia said, already typing. "You want me to trace the chip and see if Blake filed any emergency signals before she went off the grid?" "Can you?" She snorted. "I work ER triage and moonlight as an IT consultant. Of course I can." As her fingers danced across the keyboard, Carter turned his gaze to the window. The sun was going down. Fast. And every part of him said they were being watched. "Got it," Mia said a few minutes later. "Blake didn't file a distress call, but there's something odd. Her last GPS ping shows her 40 miles away from where we found Rex. And... wait." Carter leaned in. "There's encrypted audio," she said, plugging in earbuds. Her face changed as she listened. First curiosity, then confusion, then dread. She pulled the earbuds out and slid one to him. He listened. A woman's voice, frantic, breathless, spoke in hushed tones. "If you're hearing this, it means they found me. Do not trust Langford. He's in deeper than anyone realizes. Rex knows where I buried it. Follow him." The audio cut out with a sharp crack. "Langford?" Carter asked. "As in Chief Langford?" Mia nodded slowly. "Jessica Blake was dating him. Quietly. It wasn't public. I only know because she confided in me after patching up Rex a year ago. She said something didn't feel right about the people Langford had been meeting off duty. So Blake knew something. Too much. And someone took her out before she could talk." Carter stared at Rex, whose amber eyes now locked onto the man in the hoodie. The stranger hadn't moved, but he was definitely listening. His hand rested too close to his side. Without a word, Carter slid out of the booth and walked towards the counter. He nodded at the waitress. "Coffee to go, please." The man shifted. Carter turned casually. "You waiting on someone?" The man didn't answer. Rex stood up. A second later, Carter's instincts screamed. The man lunged, drawing the weapon. Before Carter could reach for his own, Rex exploded into motion. He tackled the man with the full force of a trained K-9, teeth bared, jaws clamping onto the attacker's arm. The gun clattered to the ground. Diners screamed and ducked as Carter dove, pinning the man's free arm and cuffing him within seconds. Mia rushed over. "You okay?" Carter nodded, heart racing. "Yeah, thanks to Rex." The man hissed through clenched teeth. "You're too late. You don't even know what you're dealing with." Carter grabbed a handful of the man's hoodie. "Try me." The man laughed, eyes wild. "Langford's not the top. He's the cleanup. You're chasing ghosts, deputy, and they don't bleed." Carter stared him down, rage simmering under his calm. Outside, sirens began wailing, but Carter knew better than to feel relieved. Those weren't backup. Those were cleanup. The cop cars screeched to a halt outside the diner, tires shrieking on pavement. But something about it felt wrong. Too fast. Too quiet. Carter's gut twisted. He stepped toward the door, Rex close on his flank. Through the glass he saw 2 uniformed officers stepping out of the lead cruiser. No lights on, no sirens anymore. One of them, Officer Nolan, had been Langford's right hand for years. The other, unfamiliar, wore his badge like an afterthought. Mia whispered, "They didn't radio first." "Why?" "They're not here for a report," Carter muttered. Carter crouched beside Rex and gave a hand signal. The shepherd's body tensed, ready. His loyalty wasn't trained, it was instinct. As the officers entered, the one Carter didn't recognize rested a casual hand on his belt, near the holster. "Evening," he said smoothly. "Got a call about a disturbance?" Carter didn't lower his guard. "I already called it in. You're early." The fake officer smiled, eyes scanning the scene. "We like to stay ahead of things." Nolan spoke then, his voice clipped. "You okay, Carter?" "I'm fine. Got the guy restrained. Attempted assault with a deadly. Guns over there." He pointed, but his hand didn't leave his sidearm. Nolan walked slowly toward the restrained man on the floor, kneeling beside him. "He talk yet?" Nolan asked. "Enough," Carter said. "Enough to know this isn't just a rogue agent case." Nolan looked up, and for a fraction of a second his face hardened. Cold, calculating. Then he smiled. "Well, let's get him transported." Carter stepped between them. "I'll do it." "That's not protocol. I'm making a new one." The 2 locked eyes. Suddenly, the restrained man on the floor snapped, jerking upward with unnatural strength. Rex was already there. He lunged, intercepting the man mid-movement, jaws clamping down just as the man tried to reach inside his jacket. The impact knocked the assailant unconscious. When Rex backed off, Carter pulled a thin black device from the man's pocket. A signal jammer. Mia gasped. They were planning to black us out. No communications, no recordings. The fake officer moved first. His hand flashed to his weapon. Carter didn't wait. He ducked, yanked Mia down, and fired. The bullet hit the man in the leg, spinning him to the ground. Nolan hesitated, but his gun never left its holster. Carter turned to him. "Well?" Nolan's jaw twitched. "I didn't sign up for this." "You're dirty." "Number, I'm scared. There's a difference. You gonna help me or walk out that door?" Nolan stared down at the unconscious fake cop, at the jammer, then at Rex, now growling low and unblinking. He holstered his weapon. "I'll help," Mia whispered. That was a twist. "No," Carter said. "That was a test." With Nolan now reluctantly on their side, Carter didn't waste time. He shoved the attacker into the back of his cruiser, Rex riding shotgun. Mia followed in her car. Nolan tailed behind, anxiety radiating off him like heat waves. At a safe house 10 miles out, Carter dragged the restrained man into an old farmhouse basement. Rusted chains still hung from the walls, remnants of a forgotten Prohibition-era bunker. It would do. The man finally stirred. Carter leaned in. "Name?" "Doesn't matter." "You were hunting Rex, why?" No answer. Rex stepped forward, growling, his presence alone enough to make the man tense. "They said he saw something," the man finally muttered. "Something at the training compound, something he wasn't supposed to." What did Rex see? The man looked directly at Carter, eyes wild. He didn't just see it, he smelled it, felt it. They were training dogs to identify, not bombs, not drugs, people, dissidents. Mia's voice cracked. "Are you saying they're turning canines into human-hunting weapons?" The man grinned. "Not turning, perfecting." Rex let out a sharp bark. The room went dead silent. It wasn't just a warning. It was recognition. He knew what the man was talking about. Carter stood, shaken to his core. They hadn't just killed Jessica Blake. They were erasing anyone who could reveal what Rex had survived. And that meant the fire hadn't been an accident. It was a cover-up, and Rex was the only survivor. The farmhouse creaked in the wind, its old wooden beams moaning like a ghost. But Carter's mind wasn't on the storm outside. It was on the man tied to a chair in the basement, and the one truth he couldn't ignore: Rex had seen something in that fire, something the government was willing to kill to bury. Upstairs, Mia paced with her phone in one hand and Rex's fur still clinging to her jeans. "The Pentagon contact's not picking up. I left 2 voicemails." "Try again," Carter said, eyes still locked on the restrained man below. "And this time, use the code word, the one Blake gave you." Mia hesitated. "That word gets flagged. Fast?" "Exactly." Rex was by the door, his body low but his eyes focused. Not growling. Waiting. Carter turned back to the man. "You were with Northlake K-9 Division, right?" "I was never there," the man said, blood still caked on his temple. "And neither were you." Carter grabbed the phone from Mia and dialed another number. It rang once. "Captain Rosales." A clipped voice answered. "It's Carter Briggs." Dead silence. "I was told you're retired," the voice said. "Well, now I'm just tired. Listen to me. We found someone connected to the Northlake fire. He says the dogs weren't trained for scent. They were trained for political targeting. We've got a survivor. A Killinstick. His name's Rex." Rosales didn't respond immediately, but when he did, his voice had lost the clipped formality. "You need to move. Right now. Don't go back home. Don't use your badge. I'm going to send you a location." The line went dead. "Something's off," Mia said, eyes narrowing. "Why would he help now?" Before Carter could answer, Rex bolted from the room. A second later, the lights flickered, then died. Mia gasped. "They cut the power." Carter sprinted to the window. A van, dark grey, no plates, rolled to a stop on the road. 4 men exited. Gear, suppressors, tactical. "Downstairs. Now." Mia didn't hesitate. She grabbed Rex's collar and dragged him toward the basement. Carter stayed behind just long enough to flick on a trap he'd rigged when they first arrived. A tripwire made from a busted screen door spring and a homemade flashbang. It would buy them seconds. Maybe. In the basement, Carter shoved the restrained man aside and pulled open a floor hatch. "Emergency exit. Old bootlegger tunnel." Rex went first, sniffing the air. "Clear." Mia turned back. "What about him?" "We take him." Carter yanked the man to his feet and shoved him forward. The tunnel was tight, damp, and smelled like mold and oil. Rex led the way, silent and focused, ears twitching, at every sound above. As they crawled forward, a boom echoed behind them. Then footsteps. "Move faster," Carter urged. Suddenly, the tunnel curved, and Rex stopped cold. He growled, not at the danger behind, but in front. A silhouette blocked the exit. Flashlight. Gun. "Out now, or you all die," the voice barked. Then the shot came. But it wasn't from the figure. It came from behind. One of their own. The man Carter had been dragging slumped to the ground, a hole in his back. And from the smoke behind them emerged Nolan. "Figured you'd need a hand," he said, panting, rifle still warm. "You followed us?" "Yeah, and good thing I did. These guys, they're ex-private, not police, not even government." "They're cleaning house," Carter muttered. The man at the end of the tunnel opened fire. Nolan returned it, ducking low. Rex leapt forward, dodging a second round, and disappeared into the smoke. "No!" Mia shouted. But then there was a yelp, a thud. Silence. Rex emerged seconds later, dragging the attacker's sleeve in his teeth, the man unconscious. Carter exhaled. "He's not just a dog." "No," Mia whispered. "He's a witness." And now, the entire operation would be coming for him. Carter turned to Nolan. "You in or out?" Nolan looked around. At the dirt. At the blood. At Rex. "I'm in." but only if we go to the one place they'd never expect. Mia raised an eyebrow. Where? Nolan smirked. Langford's house. He's dead, right? Let's use his secrets against them. Carter nodded, jaw clenched. Then let's blow the lid off this thing. And Rex. He didn't bark. He just led the way. The Langford estate sat on the edge of Pine Creek, wrapped in steel gates and carefully manicured silence. Most people thought it was empty since the chief's sudden retirement following the fire investigation. But Carter knew better. They parked 3 blocks away. No lights, no talking. Just a plan. Carter glanced at Mia in the rearview mirror. You sure about the files? She nodded. Langford kept encrypted backups at home. Jessica told me once during a shift change. She thought he was paranoid. Turns out she was right. Nolan checked his gear. Security system. Retired or not, this place is probably rigged. Rex sat motionless, ears forward, waiting for the signal. Carter opened the door. Let's move. They made it over the back fence with a boost from Nolan. The backyard was quiet. Too quiet. No rustling, no birds, not even bugs. Rex paused, nose twitching. Trip sensor. Mia whispered, pointing to a faint red beam laced between 2 hedges. Carter took the lead, navigating around. They reached the basement door without triggering anything. Nolan picked the lock in seconds. Inside, the air was stale, like time had stopped. The basement was lined with gun cases, wall safes, and one steel locker marked K9 Ops, private. Rex walked straight to it. He remembers, Carter said, kneeling beside the locker. The keypad had long since been disabled. Langford had installed a biometric override. Carter looked at Rex. You ready for this? Rex placed his paw on the scanner. Beep. Green light. The locker clicked open. Inside, hard drives, folders, and an envelope marked J. Blake, debrief draft. Mia grabbed the papers, eyes wide. This proves it. Jessica knew everything. The training camps, the off-book dogs, the manipulation of K9 scent response to identify political targets. She was going to expose it. Nolan held up a flash drive. Encrypted video, labeled Compound Recon, Rex 07. They recorded his training. Carter took it. We get this to Rosales. It's over. A sudden crash upstairs shattered the calm. Rex spun, barking once, low and sharp. Carter grabbed his radio, but it buzzed with static. They cut comms again, Mia said, backing toward the locker. Footsteps above, multiple, heavy. We stay or fight? Nolan asked. Carter didn't hesitate. We stall. Rex gets out. Mia opened the back window. There's a drainage tunnel under the rose garden. I can take him. You sure? She locked eyes with Carter. I'm not letting him get taken again. Rex didn't move until Carter gave the signal. Go with her. Stay low. Protect the files. Rex licked Carter's hand once before turning with Mia and disappearing through the window. Seconds later, the door burst open. 4 armed men in paramilitary gear descended the stairs. Carter and Nolan took cover behind the lockers, returning fire. One shot clipped Nolan's shoulder. Carter pulled him back, firing through a shelf of training manuals. We won't make it long. Nolan grunted, bleeding. Carter handed him a smoke grenade. Then we buy them time. They pulled pins, tossed grenades, and ran for the front stairwell. The house filled with smoke and chaos. Behind them, the attackers spread out, but hesitated. They weren't here to kill. They were here to retrieve Rex. Outside, Mia crawled through the tunnel with Rex beside her. The flash drive burned in her pocket. She reached her car, hidden under brush, and started it with trembling hands. Come on, come on. A shadow stepped in front of the vehicle. Black coat. Badge clipped to his belt. Rosales. Mia froze. He opened the door. Get in. I've got agents ready to receive that evidence. Prove it. Rosales handed her a phone. On screen, Carter, alive, back at the safe house, giving a thumbs up. She nodded. Rex leapt into the back seat. They drove away into the darkness, not knowing the world was already watching. Because 30 seconds later, that video file labeled Compound Recon Rex07 auto-uploaded to a secure cloud server, where a hidden failsafe, programmed by Jessica Blake herself, sent it to every major media outlet in the country. And Rex? Rex had just gone viral. The fallout came faster than anyone expected. By morning, major news outlets ran clips of classified footage, grainy but damning. In the video, Rex, outfitted with a training harness, was shown navigating a simulated urban environment. But the targets weren't criminals or explosive devices. They were civilians marked with facial profiles and behavioral data. Names scrolled across the screen. Journalists, whistleblowers, activists. None of them had criminal records. Across the country, protests erupted. Hashtags like #Justice for Rex and #K9. Cover-up trended within hours. The Pentagon issued a brief, sterile statement denying involvement. But it was too late. Mia sat in a safe house in Austin, the television on mute. Rex rested his head on her lap, but he didn't sleep. He hadn't since the upload. Carter entered, bruised and limping, Nolan behind him with a sling on his arm. The air was tense, but not hopeless. "They know it's real," Mia said quietly. "People are listening." Carter nodded. "Rosales said he's getting pressure from inside. Some senators want a closed hearing. Others want open trials." "Doesn't matter," Nolan muttered. "Langford may be dead, but the program was bigger than him." Carter poured a cup of coffee and stared out the window. "Which is why we need to finish what Jessica started." Mia turned to him. "You're thinking about the compound?" "Yeah, the North Lake facility. That's where they trained Rex. That's where they erased the others." Rex's ears twitched at the name. He sat up. "He remembers." Mia whispered. "He's ready." They left at dawn. The facility was located 3 hours north, hidden behind what looked like an abandoned wildlife conservation area. But when they approached the gates, Carter stopped the car. "No guards?" Nolan asked, confused. "Too quiet," Carter said. "Trap." They ditched the car and hiked in from the south. Rex led, nose low, every movement precise. Through the trees, the facility emerged. 2 hangar-sized warehouses and a control tower. No motion, no security. But inside, lights were on. Mia pulled out her laptop, syncing with a relay she'd set up. "There's an active signal inside. Could be a backup server." Carter gave a hand signal. Nolan covered the south entrance, while Carter and Mia moved around the east wall. Rex pressed ahead, pausing only when they reached the side door. It was ajar. "Last chance to back out," Carter whispered. Mia smirked. "Too late for that." They entered. Inside, the air was frigid. Rows of kennels lined the wall, empty. The place had been wiped. But the smell hit Carter like a brick wall. Bleach, burnt rubber, blood. Rex sniffed the air, then darted toward a back room. They followed. The room was filled with monitors, live feeds, and one screen blinking. Data purge in progress. Mia rushed to the terminal. "Give me 60 seconds." Suddenly, a voice echoed from a speaker overhead. Familiar. Calm. "You're too late, Deputy Briggs." Carter froze. He knew that voice. It wasn't Langford. It was Major Ellison, the man who had once trained him in tactical ops before disappearing off the grid. "I taught you better than this." Ellison continued. "You should have let sleeping dogs lie." Carter grabbed the mic. "And you should have remembered I don't take orders anymore." Ellison chuckled. "Fair. But this dog you're parading around, he was built for war, not justice. He's the last of his kind. A mistake we plan to erase tonight." A shutter slammed down behind them. Steel doors closed in every direction. Trap. Mia cursed. They're jamming the signal. Rex growled and lunged at a vent on the floor. The grate clanged open, revealing a crawl space. Carter grabbed the hard drive from the terminal. Time to go. They crawled for what felt like miles before emerging in a maintenance garage on the edge of the property. Sirens approached in the distance. But Rex stopped again. His body tensed. Carter saw it too. Inside the garage, another dog. Thin, scarred, collar still embedded in its neck. He's not alone, Mia whispered. The other dog barked once. Rex responded, tail low, ears forward. Recognition. Then came the rumble of helicopters. Ellison wasn't bluffing. They were going to destroy the entire facility, with every living trace inside. Carter looked at Rex, then the scarred dog. No one gets left behind. He opened the cage, and this time they ran as a pack. The blast rocked the compound behind them, just as Carter's boots hit the gravel. Fire ripped through the warehouse, sending a plume of smoke into the early morning sky. Mia stumbled forward with the hard drive pressed to her chest, coughing as the ash rolled in. Rex didn't stop. He stayed close to the new dog, thin, grizzled, but moving with a drive that defied exhaustion. Carter glanced at it. Another survivor? Mia nodded. Tag says Echo. No records on the system. Must have been wiped years ago. Helicopters swarmed overhead, but not military. News drones. The leak had gone viral. Protesters were camped along the fence line now, holding signs that read, Free Rex and End the K9 program. They pushed through the woods until they reached an old ranger's station Carter had once used as an observation post. Safe for now. Inside, Nolan was already setting up the satellite feed. His arm still hung in a sling, but he typed with his other hand like a man possessed. The whole country's watching, he said, eyes on the monitor. Pentagon's holding a press conference at noon. They'll deny everything. Not if we show them this, Mia said, handing him the hard drive. He inserted it. The screen flickered. Footage of the facility. Dogs caged. Trainers using psychological triggers, brutal conditioning, and forced exposure to violent scenarios. Then came the kicker. A file marked Project Clean Slate. Nolan clicked it. Carter leaned in. On the screen, Langford and Major Ellison stood together, years ago, discussing how to reprogram public-facing K9 units to respond not to threats, but to political affiliations. The entire plan was spelled out. Target activists, muzzle dissent. They weren't just abusing animals, Mia said, voice tight. They were weaponizing them against civilians. Carter looked down at Rex, now curled beside Echo, both of them alert but finally still. We end it today. Before they could move, the door creaked. Carter reached for his sidearm, but stopped. Jessica Blake stepped in. Alive. Hair cropped short, clothes tactical, eyes haunted. You're not dead, Mia breathed. Jessica looked at Rex. Neither is he. I had to disappear. Langford found out I'd backed up the training footage. I faked the car accident, went off-grid. But I couldn't leave Rex. She dropped a folder on the table. Ellison isn't just cleaning up. He's launching Phase 2. Tonight. Black Ridge Detention Facility. They've got 6 K9 units left. He's going to burn the place, erase the last of the evidence. Nolan blinked. That's federal ground. We can't just waltz in. We don't, Carter said. We leak it. Live. Jessica shook her head. They'll shut it down before it hits the airwaves. Rex stood suddenly, hackles raised. Echo followed, pacing. Jessica turned to Carter. They found us. Bullets ripped through the front window. They dove. Mia dragged the laptop under the desk. Nolan grabbed the hard drive. Back exit, Carter shouted. Rex and Echo lunged toward the door, clearing the path. Carter returned fire as they ran. 3 black SUVs were parked at the base of the hill. More armed men, not federal. Private, no insignias. The same contractors from Langford's network. Carter pointed at a trail. "Down the creek bed. I know where it leads." They sprinted, gunfire chasing them through trees. Rex moved like a ghost, silent, precise. Echo, though slower, never broke formation. They crossed into an abandoned train yard, hopping rusted rails. The noise behind them faded. For a moment, all they heard was breath and footsteps, and then a sound Carter never expected. Sirens. Not theirs. Actual police. Dozens of marked cruisers swept in. Red and blue lit the horizon. One officer shouted from a loudspeaker, "Deputy Briggs, we have a warrant for your protection. Drop your weapon and step forward." Jessica froze. "You trust them?" Carter saw the badge number. Sheriff Layton. Old school, honest. He stepped forward, slowly. Mia followed. Nolan raised his hands. Layton met them halfway. "We saw the footage. Whole town's watching. I lost 2 deputies to that K9 program. We're done being quiet." Carter handed him the hard drive. "Get this to the press. Not federal, local. Somewhere they can't bury it." Layton nodded. "And the dogs. They stay with us." Layton smiled. "I wouldn't dare separate them." Behind him, Rex and Echo stood side by side, battle-worn but defiant. This wasn't just about saving them anymore. It was about justice. For everyone who'd been used, erased, forgotten. And it wasn't over yet. The convoy rolled toward Black Ridge as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in deep amber streaks. Carter sat in the front seat of the unmarked cruiser, eyes locked on the facility rising in the distance. Its high walls, razor wire, and spotlights gave it the look of a fortress, one meant to keep people out as much as in. Behind him, Rex and Echo sat side by side in the back, their gazes fixed forward. Not anxious. Ready. Mia tapped away on her tablet. "We've got a 20-minute window before Ellison's sweep team wipes the last server. Then it's gone. Everything." "Are you sure they're still holding dogs inside?" Nolan asked. Jessica, sitting in the third vehicle, responded over comms. "Positive. Project Slate wasn't just about controlling K9s. They were running cognitive override trials. If those dogs disappear, so does every chance we have to stop it from happening again." Carter gripped the wheel tighter. "Then we go in before the purge." As they approached the front gate, Layton's cruiser peeled off and lit up his sirens. Guards stepped out, weapons ready. But Layton held up a federal-looking document and barked loud enough to make them hesitate. While the guards argued, Carter, Mia, and Nolan drove around the eastern ridge and stopped at a drainage culvert that Jessica swore led into the old maintenance level. Carter opened the back door. "You ready, boys?" Rex barked once, low, focused. Echo followed without hesitation. They crawled through the tunnel, emerging in a dark sub-basement lined with storage lockers and flickering emergency lights. The air smelled of disinfectant and oil. Faint barking echoed through the walls. Not wild barking, controlled, suppressed. Mia consulted the blueprint. "Kennels are 2 floors up, west wing." Carter drew his sidearm. "We move quiet until we can't." They moved through the corridors in silence, past abandoned offices and shuttered labs. As they neared the kennel wing, Rex suddenly stopped, muscles tensed. Then they heard it. Footsteps. Not patrol. Combat boots. Carter signaled to split. Mia and Echo veered right. Carter and Rex took the left. The hallway erupted in gunfire. Carter dove behind a file cabinet, returning fire while Rex darted under the smoke, flanking the attackers with brutal precision. One soldier went down screaming as Rex clamped onto his arm. The second raised his weapon but was hit by Nolan from the stairwell. They pushed forward, blood pounding. Then they reached it. A long, windowless room filled with cages. Inside, 5 German shepherds, all showing signs of stress, matted fur, visible ribs, scars. But they weren't broken. Not yet. Jessica appeared at the far door, breathless. "Mainframe's in the next room. I need 2 minutes." Mia nodded. "We'll hold the line." Carter stepped into the kennel, opened the first cage, and knelt. "Come on, buddy, you're safe." The dog stepped out slowly, sniffing Rex, then Carter. Recognition sparked. One by one, the others followed. Rex led them out like a general retrieving his fallen soldiers, but then came the sound of a distant explosion. Not near them, outside. Jessica's voice crackled over the radio. "Ellison just blew the front gate. Layton's team is under fire. He's going to collapse the facility from the roof. We have 10 minutes, max." Carter turned to Mia. "Get the dogs out through the tunnel. Take Echo. I'll cover Jessica." "You're not doing this alone." Mia shot back. Rex growled low. He stood between them, eyes locked on Carter. Carter sighed. He always knows. He handed Mia a data stick. "If we don't make it, you leak this everywhere, bypass the press, upload direct to every citizen." She nodded, eyes glossy. "You better make it." Rex gave a soft nudge to Carter's hand before following the others down the hallway. Carter and Jessica bolted toward the server room. The door was already sparking, someone trying to fry the system remotely. Jessica dropped to the floor, pulled out a toolkit, and started working. "Cover me!" Carter fired at the approaching footsteps. 2 men in black dropped. A third ran. But Rex wasn't there this time. Carter was alone. "Done!" Jessica shouted. "Got the backups." They turned to run, just as the ceiling groaned. Ellison's voice echoed over the speakers. "You can save your files, Carter, but you'll never save them all." The roof began to cave. Carter grabbed Jessica, shoved her through the exit, and sprinted behind her. Concrete crashed behind them, but they didn't stop. Outside, Mia waved them over, already surrounded by the rescued dogs. Nolan was on the radio, yelling coordinates. A helicopter appeared on the horizon. Carter collapsed into the grass, catching his breath as Rex ran to him, tail wagging, but cautious, as if sensing the toll. Carter scratched behind his ear. "Good boy, you did it." Sirens wailed in the distance again, but this time they weren't alone. The people were coming. The world was watching. They didn't sleep that night. Not Carter, not Rex, not the others who had stood in the smoke and gunfire, carrying a truth too heavy for silence. The sun rose blood orange over the charred remains of Black Ridge, now a national headline. But the real war was just beginning. At a safe house provided by Sheriff Layton, an old ranger station in the Blue Ridge foothills, Carter watched the morning broadcast as a reporter read from a breaking story. Project Clean Slate, an illegal K-9 reconditioning program conducted on U.S. soil, has been exposed following an overnight raid involving whistleblower agents, a former federal vet, and a German shepherd known only as Rex. Rex was lying near the door, one paw resting protectively on the smallest of the rescued dogs. He looked up when Carter said his name, ears twitching like he knew what was coming next. "They know your name now," Carter muttered. Mia entered, coffee in hand, eyes puffy but alert. "We just got confirmation. The full data dump went live in over 60 countries. Reddit, X, YouTube, TikTok. Millions have seen the footage. No one's denying it anymore." Jessica followed behind her. "And Ellison?" Nolan appeared from the hallway. "Gone. Last signal from his burner was 20 miles north, but the Pentagon already disavowed him. They're calling it a rogue Black Ops experiment." Carter scoffed. "Rogue, please." Still, that didn't change what had to come next. He stood and motioned to the group. "We meet the press in an hour. Every outlet in the country will be there, and I won't lie to them." "You're not afraid?" Mia asked quietly. "I am," he admitted. "But this isn't about us anymore. It's about the dogs they threw away, the people they silenced, the men and women who did their jobs, only to be betrayed by the ones giving orders. Rex walked to his side, sitting tall like a statue. Ready. They drove into town in silence. When they arrived at the courthouse steps, Carter didn't expect the crowd. Hundreds of people, reporters, activists, veterans, dog lovers. Some carried signs that read, "Justice for Rex." Others had photos of their own service animals lost to similar programs. As Carter stepped up to the podium, flashes burst like lightning. He took a breath, glanced down at Rex, and began. "My name is Carter Briggs. I served in law enforcement for 16 years. I worked with K9s, trained them, trusted them. But what I discovered over the last week changed everything." He held up a printed photo of the facility's interior. This is where they were taken. Trained to act, not to think. Modified, drugged, and ultimately, abandoned. He paused. But one of them didn't quit. His name is Rex, and if not for him, none of us would be standing here. The crowd erupted into applause. Jessica stepped forward, holding the hard drive. "This is the evidence. It proves that top military officials sanctioned these programs, that they used animals as weapons, that they planned to destroy everything, including the dogs." Carter continued. "We want congressional hearings. We want indictments. But most of all, we want legislation that ensures no dog, no handler, no civilian is ever forced into something like this again." Someone in the crowd shouted, "What about Ellison?" Carter looked straight into the cameras. "He's out there, and he'll be found. But justice doesn't begin with one man, it begins with accountability." A reporter asked, "What do you plan to do now?" Carter glanced at Rex. "We rebuild. With honesty, with loyalty, and with people who care more about doing what's right than doing what's easy." A small boy in the front row walked up and offered Rex a dog biscuit. Rex sniffed it, gave a soft bark, and gently took it from the boy's hand. The boy smiled wide. "My dad said Rex is a hero." "He is," Carter said. "He always was. They just forgot." As the crowd grew around them, Rex stayed close, eyes calm. Not just a dog, a survivor, a witness, a symbol of everything they were fighting for. And the battle wasn't over yet. 6 months later, the world had changed, but not nearly enough. The headlines had faded. Politicians gave impassioned speeches, bills were proposed and buried, and whispers of Ellison still circled intelligence briefings. But for Carter, Rex, and the team, their mission hadn't ended on the courthouse steps. It had only evolved. Welcome to the Ghost Initiative. Carter stood in front of a newly renovated K9 training facility in northern Colorado, what used to be a decommissioned fire station, now a haven for retired and rescued working dogs. The banner over the gate read, "Train with honor, retire with dignity." Rex sat beside him, wearing a soft leather collar etched with the words, "Never abandoned." A young boy reached out a tentative hand to pet him. Rex leaned into the touch, tail wagging slowly, eyes warm. This wasn't the battlefield anymore. It was home. Mia and Jessica guided a tour of volunteers through the compound. Nolan taught a group of teenagers basic scent tracking drills, using retired handlers as mentors. The dogs weren't here to serve. They were here to live. Inside the main office, Carter reviewed the latest grant applications. Small towns across the country were now reaching out to join the program, looking to provide their own K9s with better post-service lives. Some offered land. Others sent donations. Most just sent thank you letters. But not everyone was ready to let go of the past. One evening, as Carter locked up the grounds, a black SUV pulled into the lot. The man who stepped out wore a suit too sharp for the Rockies and a look Carter didn't like. "You're Briggs?" Carter nodded, wary. "Depends who's asking." "Name's Vance, DHS. You stirred up a lot of dust, Sergeant." I'm not a sergeant anymore. Funny, because what you've built here looks an awful lot like a command center. Carter folded his arms. We don't answer to Washington. Not anymore. Vance smirked, but it didn't reach his eyes. That's exactly what worries them. As he turned to leave, he handed Carter a sealed envelope. Just a heads up. Ellison's name showed up in a ghost contract offshore. If he resurfaces, you won't get an official alert. But I figured you earned the right to know first. Carter took the envelope but didn't open it. If he comes back, we'll be ready. Vance looked past Carter to Rex, who now stood at attention near the doorway, tail stiff, eyes locked on the agent like a sentinel. Hell of a dog. Carter smiled. He's more than that. Vance drove off, leaving dust and questions behind. Later that night, Carter sat with Rex on the porch. The stars were bright, and the mountain air carried no sirens, no gunfire. Just peace. You saved us, you know, Carter whispered. Not just from the fire, but from everything after. Rex let out a soft huff and laid his head on Carter's boot. From inside, Mia's voice called out, We've got another letter. From a sheriff in New Mexico. Says they just shut down their own training site and rescued 2 dogs. Wants to send them our way. Carter smiled. Tell him we've got room. As he stood, Rex rose with him. Before walking in, Carter glanced once more at the stars, then back at the facility behind him. Dozens of lives rebuilt. Dozens more waiting. He knew the world wouldn't change overnight. But this mattered. And to anyone listening, to anyone watching their story unfold across screens big and small, he had one message. If you've got a story about a loyal dog, share it. If you've got a voice, use it. Because dogs like Rex don't ask to be heroes, but they deserve to be remembered like one. The screen fades to black, with a final line in white. What's your story with a loyal companion? Share it, subscribe to German Shepherd, join the pack.